When I was about 8 years old, my older brother Tyler was a Boy Scout. Growing up, I was always jealous of him. He got to go on these camping trips with his troop while I stayed home. I remember watching him pack his gear and practice setting up his tent in the backyard before every trip. To me, it looked like the coolest thing in the world. So one weekend, my parents decided to let us do something small to make me feel included. We set up a tent in the backyard. To my 8-year-old brain, it felt like a real camping trip. My parents helped us start a small fire in the fire pit, and we roasted marshmallows while the sun went down. Tyler and I joked around, talked about random stuff, and pretended we were deep in the wilderness even though we were only about 20 feet from the house. Eventually, my parents told us it was time to get some sleep. We climbed into the tent with our sleeping bags and played our handheld games for a while until our eyes started getting heavy. Tyler fell asleep pretty quickly, but I couldn't. The sleeping bag felt stiff and uncomfortable, and the quiet of the backyard felt different than sleeping inside my room. Every little sound seemed louder. Eventually, after what felt like hours, I drifted off. I woke up sometime later in the middle of the night. At first, I was confused about where I was. The tent was dark, and the backyard was completely silent. Then I noticed something that instantly made my stomach drop. Tyler was gone. His sleeping bag was empty. The zipper on the tent was still closed though, so my first thought was that he had gone back inside the house because he couldn't sleep. But suddenly being alone in that tent felt really unsettling. I decided I'd just run back inside too. I slowly unzipped the tent. Before crawling out, I peeked through the opening just to make sure everything looked normal outside. And that's when my heart nearly stopped. Someone was sitting by the fire pit. It wasn't Tyler. It wasn't my dad. It was a grown man sitting there in the darkness, facing the tent. The second I realized that, I quickly zipped the tent shut and dove back into my sleeping bag like that thin fabric could somehow protect me. I stayed completely still. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. Then I heard the chair by the fire pit scrape across the ground. Footsteps, slow footsteps moving across the grass. A shadow appeared on the outside wall of the tent. He was standing right next to it. I remember holding my breath, thinking if I didn't move, maybe he'd think the tent was empty. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. The zipper started moving. Slowly, just a few inches at first. A small opening appeared. I turned my head slightly. Near the bottom corner of the tent, where the zipper didn't fully seal, there was an eye pressed against the gap, looking straight at me. I froze. I could see the white of his eye in the darkness. It blinked once. Then the zipper moved a little more. That's when I finally screamed. I kicked my way out of my sleeping bag and slammed into the tent poles. Outside, I heard someone sprinting across the yard. A second later, the porch light flipped on and my dad burst out the back door yelling. But whoever that man was, he was already gone. Even now, years later, I still get chills thinking about that eye staring at me through the tent, and I still wonder what would have happened if I hadn't woken up.
A few years ago, when I bought my first house, I was constantly browsing online marketplaces looking for cheap furniture. Buying your first house drains your bank account pretty fast, so I was trying to find good deals wherever I could. One day, I came across a listing that caught my attention immediately. Someone was selling a really nice sectional couch and a high-end mountain bike for a ridiculously low price. I messaged the seller and we talked for a bit. He was short with his replies, but agreed to meet me that same evening. The address he sent was almost 2 hours away, near the coast. When I finally arrived, I couldn't believe the place. The house was massive. It sat right on a cliff overlooking the ocean. It honestly looked like something only a millionaire could afford. But something felt off the moment I pulled into the driveway. There was this old beat-up sedan parked there that looked completely out of place compared to the house. Still, I walked up to the front door. There was a note taped to it. It said the doorbell was broken and to use the back door. Weird, but not enough to scare me off. So I walked around the house. The backyard view was insane. The Pacific Ocean stretched out forever behind the property. I knocked on the sliding glass door and waited. Nothing. I knocked again. Still nothing. I checked my phone and messaged the seller again, but he didn't respond. While waiting, I walked closer to the edge of the cliff to take a picture of the sunset. When I turned around to walk back toward the house, something immediately made my stomach tighten. Every single window in the house now had the blinds open, and at each window, there was someone standing there. They weren't moving. They were just standing there, looking at me. At first, I honestly thought they were mannequins or something. But then I noticed something that made my skin crawl. Every single one of them was smiling. Not talking, not moving, just staring and smiling. That was enough for me. Every instinct in my body told me something was very wrong. I started jogging back toward my truck. As I passed the side of the house, I noticed another window that had been closed earlier. Now the blind was open, and someone was standing there too, watching me. At that point, I didn't even try to act calm anymore. I got into my truck and reversed down the long driveway as fast as I could. Before leaving the property, I glanced back one last time. The front door was open, and a man was standing on the porch with his hands in his pockets, watching me drive away. Later, I found out the real owner of the house wasn't even home that week, which means the people standing in those windows were never supposed to be there. Last summer, my parents went away for the weekend, so I decided to invite some friends over for a small pool party. Our backyard is pretty secluded. Behind the pool, there's a large stretch of woods that goes back a long way. Earlier that afternoon, while I was setting up tables, I heard something strange, a cough. It came from the woods. It sounded like a grown man clearing his throat. I froze and looked toward the trees, but I couldn't see anyone. I even called out, asking if someone was there. No response. Eventually, I shrugged it off and kept setting up. That night, about 20 friends came over. Music was playing, people were swimming, and everything felt normal. By about 1 a.m, everyone had left. I locked the back door, turned off the lights, and went upstairs to sleep. Around 2 a.m, I suddenly woke up. I heard a loud splash. Not a small splash either. It sounded exactly like someone jumping into the deep end of the pool. I got up and walked to my window. When I looked down into the backyard, there was a man swimming back and forth across the pool. The pool lights lit up his face just enough for me to know something. I had never seen him before in my life. I opened the window and yelled down, "Hey, who are you?" He stopped swimming, then slowly turned his head and looked up at me. He didn't say a word.
He just stared. Then he climbed out of the pool, and instead of running away, he started walking toward the house. That's when real panic kicked in. I ran to my bedroom door and locked it. A few seconds later, I heard the sliding door downstairs open. I knew I had locked that door. Then I heard wet footsteps, slow footsteps moving through the house, across the floor, toward the stairs. Then the stairs started creaking as he climbed them one step at a time. The footsteps stopped right outside my bedroom door. The handle slowly turned, once, twice, 3 times. Then there were 3 slow knocks. My hands were shaking as I called the police. Trying to sound brave, I shouted that the police were already on their way. There was a long silence. Then I heard a man's voice through the door, calm, almost friendly. "It's me. Open the door." I told him I didn't know him and that he needed to leave. Another few seconds of silence passed. Then I heard him turn and walk away. The wet footsteps went down the hall, down the stairs, and out the front door. When the police arrived, they found a clear trail of water leading from the pool, through the house, all the way up to my bedroom door. And I'm still convinced that the cough I heard in the woods earlier that day was the same man who ended up in my pool that night.